Welcome to the NNJR Trackside Classroom Series. My name is Bill Gilbert. I'm one of the NNJR Chief Instructors, and I'm happy to be talking to you today about situational awareness. And a short way to think about this might be all those things when you first showed up at the track that you weren't really aware of, and that now we really do need to be aware of. So let's dive in. Of course, before we do that, the normal disclaimer that we're going to talk here today about techniques and skills and ideas that we think will help you drive both better and safer on the track, but you use them at your own risk. So let's talk about what situational awareness is and then how we can improve it. Now, the obvious things are things like flags and traffic, but there's also track conditions, what the car is doing, and being aware of even ourselves and how we're driving. And today we'll talk about some skills we can develop to improve our on-track situational awareness, because the dictionary definition, if you will, about situational awareness doesn't just include the ability to perceive and understand one's situation, but effectively respond to it. And that's, I hope, what we'll focus on, and you can take away some tips to help you better respond to what's going on around you and your car as you're driving. Now, we'll start with flags, of course, and everyone knows how important flags are because we can't see around corners or over hills on track, and we're counting on the flaggers to let us know if there's anything we need to know about. Yeah, so if it's not green, then obviously that's an issue. I'm not going to cover the flags here. If you're new to DE, you need to study these. You need to know these flags. That's a prerequisite for showing up at the track. But here are some skills that all drivers can improve. I don't care what your level of experience is, starting with how soon can I see each flag station? Not, I can see it as I drive by, like the photo at the bottom here, but can I see it from a long ways away? And the answer is yes, in many, many cases. Secondly, we need to create a mental picture of what that normal flag station looks like. And that way, when we glance at that flag station, if it doesn't look normal, then that's a warning to us, and we now need to probably slow down and pay attention to what's going on. And that mental picture needs to be obviously when we're close to the flag station, but also from a distance. Again, we can see many from quite a distance. And of course, we need to check every station every lap. This is not something we do once in a while. It has to happen even if we're busy in traffic. And one tip, which is just a nice thing to do in addition to helping build the muscle memory of looking at flag stations, is to wave at the flaggers on the warm-up lap and the cool-down lap. And you have more time to see them and build up that mental picture and that muscle memory when we're not focused on completely on driving. Now, passing. This surprises a lot of new drivers when they're first on track as to how much there is to learn about traffic and passing. So obviously the rules are only in designated straights, only with a signal. And the reason for all that, of course, is that both drivers know exactly what to expect. The car being overtaken knows which side you, if you're the passing car, are going to pass on, and likewise you do. And the reverse is true, of course. But we see lots of mistakes happen with passing in student run groups. Here are some of them. Some new drivers fixate on the mirrors. So they get so hung up on the mirrors, they don't focus on the driving. Other drivers do the opposite. They don't see the traffic behind, and even if you do see the traffic most of the time, you may get surprised. That happens to drive most drivers of any level. It takes a lot of skill to always be scanning the mirrors to not get surprised. And of course, we'll see passes given way too late as an example of one that's poorly timed. And a mistake we see too often is a passing signal and then moving offline out of the way of a car coming from behind. Again, the rules are, with very few exceptions, that the car being overtaken stays online. Again, that's part of being predictable, part of knowing what, so that both drivers know exactly what to expect. And of course, none of us like trains, where there's more than a couple cars behind a car and it takes a while to get by. That frustrates every driver involved typically. And we'd like to see those get dissipated as quickly as possible. So here are some passing skills to work on, starting with how we use the mirrors. And if you've heard me talk about how to use the eyes and our vision when driving, you'll remember the scan or a glance is using our focus vision, our high definition vision, for just a split second. And where we would glance, in this case, at a mirror, and if there's nothing there, then everything's good. If there is something there, we can glance again to confirm, okay, there's one car behind me and they're quite a ways back. Or maybe there's 3 cars behind me and one of them is quite close, whatever it is. But a skill to work on is to glance at the mirrors at the right time. There's no reason to look at the mirrors in a corner. There's no reason to look at the mirrors in a section of the track where there's no passing. If we're in a series on a track like Lightning between turns 2 to 5, it's not a passing zone. There's no passing. There's no reason to look in the mirror. Yes, if you've got a lot of experience and you can do it, great. But if you don't, work on other things at that point. Same thing would be true at Mid-Ohio between turns 5 and 9, for example, not a passing area for students. So no reason to be looking in the mirror. On the other hand, glancing in the mirror as we're getting onto a straightaway is the obvious time to look. But another time that many drivers miss is as they're halfway down a straightaway when they should look in the mirror, because perhaps a car is closing rapidly and you can send them by easily before you get to the next corner. And as you develop skills, I highly recommend you glance in the mirror as you get into a braking zone at the end of a straight, not because you're going to give a pass at that point, but just so you know how many cars, if any, are behind you for the next time a passing zone does come up. And if you do that, you'll get a better sense of how much traffic is behind. Now, most of you probably know I am a broken record about having your side mirrors adjusted properly. If you don't have them set to eliminate blind spots, then please do so. Your instructor will work with you on that, but there's information in my other talks about that. But basically, you want to push the side mirrors out so that you can see alongside your car, not the back of your car. You know where your car is. Second, we want to be able to focus on driving and traffic. And this is something that comes with experience, but it's something that we can practice. We want to be able to mentally note those cars behind in the mirror without it affecting our driving. And again, it takes practice, but we need to focus on doing that. And part of what will make that more comfortable is not when you do look at the cars behind in the mirror, start to judge speed differentials. And the same on the car that you're closing on in front. But that's usually easier for drivers than judging speed differentials in the mirror. And that's where frequent glances, if I glance in the mirror and a car is way back and I glance again in my mirror, 3 seconds later and that car is closer, then obviously they're going faster. And I've already kind of talked about this, but picking the right time and place to pass and be passed is something that comes with experience. And in fact, advanced passing skills are to be able to anticipate, either giving a pass or taking a pass so that neither car has to slow down. And this is especially important on tracks with longer straightaways, but it's important anywhere. And experienced drivers often are able to give a pass where neither car really has to slow down, unlike most student drivers where typically one or both cars end up adjusting their driving to make the pass happen. Now let's talk about the track. We all like being on the track when it's sunny, but some days aren't sunny. It may be cold, it may be very hot, it may be rainy. And I'm not going to talk much about rain today. We have a whole separate presentation on that, but I will talk about being sensitive to the track. And in addition to rain or whatever, there are situations like antifreeze or oil on the track, or some tracks have sealer on certain sections or concrete patches. All of these things affect the amount of grip on the track. So here's some skills to work on. Our eyes are really important here to really note the track surface and pay a special attention to brake zones and the early part of each corner between turn-in and apex. And it's a good idea to get a mental picture of what that surface looks like. Is it shiny? Is it dull? Is it gray? Is it black? Whatever that is, and write those notes on your track map. Now, of course, depending on the time of day and even time of year, that may change somewhat, and you may want to make those notes as well. But being really aware of the track surface is something that, again, needs experience, but it's a skill we can develop. And related to our eyes, we can get a sense of what does it feel like? What does it feel like in the steering wheel? And what does it sound like? If we're used to a certain sound over a particular track section and all of a sudden it sounds different, that should tell us something. And as I said a moment ago, I'm not going to talk much about rain here, other than to make the point that damp conditions, wet conditions are highly variable, and if you're going to go out and drive in really wet conditions, then there's a whole set of skills related to that we can talk about on a different occasion. But be aware of changeable conditions. If we have a situation like we recently had at Lightning, where it was wet overnight, but the track was drying as the morning went along, those conditions can catch a lot of people out, because a lot of the track may be just fine, but parts aren't. Or someone may splash water on a section that wasn't splashed the lap before. So changeable conditions need to heighten your spidey sense of what's going on with the track. And if you've advanced off of street tires onto an R compound tire, or even just a 200 tread wear tire, just be aware those tires have less ability to deal with cold and rain and so on than a street tire. Street tires have the great advantage of being much more flexible in dealing with variable conditions. But of course, we have to talk about the car. Most of the time, the car is fine, but things do happen. Tires can gain or lose pressure. Brakes can fade. You can get a leak. Hopefully, you don't get the kind of leak we see in the photo here, where some oil is caught on fire, or maybe the engine's gone. But things can happen. So we need to develop some skills to be aware. And it really just comes down to being very aware of what the car normally sounds like, feels like, smells like. And anything that's different needs attention. It might be just a subtle noise, not a really strange one. The car might feel a little different. Something might smell different. These need a lot of attention and immediate attention, not at the end of the session. If the middle of a session, you hear a strange noise and you're not sure what it is, pull into the pits, have it checked out, make sure it's not something that needs more attention. And one way you can enhance your ability to hear what's going on with the car is what's called an auditory input session, where you take one of your track sessions and you pay special attention to what you're hearing. You try to hear something different every lap, something new that you hadn't noticed before. It might be just the wind noise as you go down a certain straightaway or around a certain corner. It might be the tire noise. It might be the note of the engine. But there's a lot we can hear if we focus on it, and that's what this kind of a session is there to do. And of course, situational awareness goes beyond just what's going on around us. It includes us as the driver, and being aware of our condition and are we making mistakes, and in particular, I want to focus not on, none of us are perfect. So, pro drivers say they don't drive perfect laps. So none of us are going to. But here I'm talking about major mistakes. We're really early on the apex, or we got into the corner a lot faster. If we make a mistake like that, we really need to respond to it right away. So here are some skills that can help us with that. Focusing on the current corner and forgetting whatever happened in the previous one, at least until we get there next time, is one thing that comes with experience, right? But a way that you can get there is to get to a really heightened attention on a consistent turn-in point, and then being aware of our speed at that turn-in point. If we can do those two things, a reasonably consistent turn-in point, I don't mean within an inch, although that would be nice, but within 6 inches or even a foot if you're a new driver, that would be fine. And then be aware of what your speed is at that point. And that way you'll be aware the instant you turn in, if you're all of a sudden a lot faster than you've been before. Now we have to pay a lot more attention. As you get more experience, you may even develop some reference points on the track surface, between the turn-in and the apex that help you make sure you're on the proper line. It could be a tire mark, it could be just a change in the track surface, anything of that sort. But the objective here is to know, when we turn in instantly, again, real fast, are we okay? And if not, then this is a no-go, meaning we're going to slow down. We're going to stay on the brakes a little longer. We're not going to get on the gas as soon as we normally do. If everything's okay, we drive just like we normally would go. But this go, no-go mentality is a huge way to keep yourself safe on track as you build up experience and speed. And last but not least on my list of situational awareness topics is you, the driver, because drivers can have a bad day, right? We can be distracted, or we may be focused on chasing a car on track or a lap time. I hope not, but it happens, right? We may lose focus out on track. We can get tired, and I'll say more about that in a moment. What we want to be thinking here, is, we want to be like this guy who's, in a good mood on a nice day when we're in the car. If we're not, then our brain isn't going to be fully engaged to keep us safe on track. And if it's not, we need to think about that. So here's some skills to keep us safe. You've heard many times, have 1 or 2 goals for each time you go out on track. In staging, we can repeat those goals to help. That's going to help us with focus, right? If we repeat them to ourselves 3 times, that'll help keep us focused. But we should also ask ourselves, how am I feeling? If I'm kind of feeling lousy, well, then I know I'm not going to drive so well, so maybe I'll back it down a little bit. For focus, we should have a trigger word. And you've heard Ross Bentley and other people talk about that. It could be eyes up, it could be look sharp, it could be something to do with the brakes, whatever it is that is useful to you. And then when you're on the track, you can repeat that trigger word, to get that focus back. You can also make sure you're taking some deep breaths on a straightaway, and relaxing your hands and neck so that you're not tensed up on the track. These are simple things we can do that will help us drive better and safer. And last but not least, fatigue. Here's some signs of fatigue. 2 mistakes in a row, 3 mistakes in 1 lap. You missed some upcoming traffic in the mirror. All of a sudden, you're less consistent. And certainly, if you're feeling overheated or you're feeling cramps or literal fatigue, then clearly, something's going on, and we need to pay a lot of attention, because fatigue sneaks up on drivers, and we work a lot harder on track than we may realize, and it can lead to serious incidents. And if you're feeling like this, it's time to come in and take a drink of water and relax a bit. And it may be done. You may be done for the day. You certainly should be done for this session. So, to summarize, obviously, developing our situational awareness is essential to being safe on track. That includes the things we talked about: traffic, flags, track condition, being sensitive to what the car is telling you, being sensitive to you, the driver, your frame of mind, how are you feeling, all of those kinds of things we talked about. Being aware of mistakes and use them as a learning opportunity, develop that go, no-go mentality that we talked about. And last, I've included fatigue here, just to highlight it, because again, it can sneak up on us and be really important. So with all that said, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or see me at the track. I look forward to seeing you at the track real soon. And again, thanks for watching. And I will see you on the next one if I don't see you at the track.